Hello, 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 everyone. How are you? Hope you're having an incredible, incredible day, and may peace be upon you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for watching my show. Yes, I can. With me, your host, Dr. Izdihar Jamil, to the podcast, The Secrets of Timeless Life, Business, and Career Success. And today, I have the fabulous Dr. Wright-Knothe, who is a high-performing coach and a psychologist who loves helping people to reach their full potential and enjoy their life. So, Dr. Wright, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Wright-Knothe and I, we met at an event and we just got connected with one another. And Dr. Knothe, you've been a psychologist for the past 35 years. And now you're transitioning into high performance coaching. And you also have got 3 kids, right?
Yep, 3 adult children, yeah.
That's wonderful. And tell us a little bit about yourself, like how you got started and what made you want to do the shift. Because today we're going to be talking about the juggling act that all moms face with a career and having a kids. And Dr. Wright-Knothe, I think, is the perfect person to kind of hash it out and give us the tips and tricks. So tell us, what made you have a shift now or in the last 2.5, 3 years?
Well, as a psychologist, as you can imagine, I've heard a lot of really awful stories and have seen people experience a lot of unnecessary suffering, and I wanted to have a bigger impact in preventing that and working with leaders who can do something to reduce it, so that there's a less need for therapists in general, because there's a ginormous need for it, and there's a lot of unnecessary suffering. So I wanted to have a bigger impact in reducing that and helping people to enjoy their lives, because I think that's a right that we have, is to enjoy our lives and to enjoy what we do for a living, and also for women to be able to work, to have a career that's meaningful, and to have children that you can really make that work.
Absolutely. Talk us about that point, Dr. Wright-Knothe, because a lot of the time we live in the world either or, right? Either being a mom, a stay-at-home mom, or having a career, and the either or part, because it feels as if you can't have one. Certainly I felt guilty, in the times when I work. I would go, and I was a computer scientist before, so I would go to the office and leave my kids, I cried. And then when I'm home with the kids, I cried because I want to go and work. There's always that the guilt or the unsatisfaction. So how can any woman or any mom start to build in a little foundation at a time to pass through that guilt trip and also start to work towards having both, but successful in both?
Yeah. I think you have to be intentional. So if you're going into a career that involves a lot of travel or really long hours, and whether that's really true, that's the way it has to be. And I don't really think that's really great for fathers either, to have that be the case, because their children miss out on them and they miss out on their children. So it's not good for men either. And so what you're choosing to do, and there's a lot of shifting going on these days, is that you choose what you do in terms of the lifestyle that you want to have. So and so to be very intentional about that, I don't think it's workable to drop your children off at daycare early in the morning and pick them up before one of the last kids to be picked up. I don't think you could. I guess I don't think that's good for any parent or any child to do that. So to figure out and that your spouse or your significant other with your children, that you work with them so that you're a team. It's not just on the woman. It's not just on the woman, that you're a team in working on this. So the way that my husband and I did that is, when our children were young, I took off Mondays, he took off Fridays, and we worked longer days on Tuesday through Thursday. And I can't remember exactly, but one of us would be the one dropping off later in the morning, one would be picking off earlier after, later in the day. So the amount of childcare was minimized. And unfortunately, we didn't have family living in the same city, so that we couldn't have any family, because that's very beneficial if you do have a
Yeah.
grandmother or whatever, or a relative, because it's somebody like and trust, and it's a family situation. We also were fortunate that found a neighbor who her children were grown, and she did an in-home daycare, and it was perfect. It was perfect. It was 2 houses away and didn't even have to go in the car. So we were fortunate that lasted for a while, but it's a big leap of faith to leave your child with somebody that you really don't know, or a daycare center was not easy for me to leave in the beginning. It was not easy for me to leave a child there, because it's kind of institutional, especially
Yes.
before they're old enough to play with other children.
Mm-hmm.
So that was difficult, and I remember crying at the
Yes.
window. But it's something I had to do for a bit. And so, although certainly you do very careful shopping, so that, because there was a few places I looked at and I went, no way am I leaving my child here. So
Yes.
so it's difficult, and so, and if they ever say, oh mommy, please don't go, that's really tough, because I have a distinct memory once when I went to go for a run, and my oldest daughter was at the end of the driveway yelling, mommy, please don't go. And I did go. I mean, I wasn't gone for excessive amounts of times, but that was difficult. But that taking care of ourselves is also part. Women have a tendency to be giving to a fault.
Mm-hmm.
And giving is a good thing to be, but you gotta also look after yourself, or you're not going to be good for your children or your spouse. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think you touched like two hot spots there. Like the first is like, what is the intention of the lifestyle that you want, which is
yeah,
absolutely key, versus this is what society thinks, this is what society does, but what is the lifestyle that you or your partner would want to create?
yeah,
And kind of like working around that. Like, for example, you said you took Mondays off, your husband took Friday off, so one of you would drop off later and pick up earlier. So kind of like working around that. And I think that's really important, Dr. Wright-Knothe, because like we create our own rules in a way. It's okay to have like how the things that we want. We deserve to have everything that how we want it, and exactly that we wanted. So I
yeah,
really love that. And exactly like you said, like seeing your child. Remember, my son was 4, living at, crying the balls out again, mommy don't leave, mommy don't leave. And I was like, okay, that is like heartbreaking. And I think like for me, that's kind of like propels me to create, I just want to be home on my kitchen table. I just want to be home doing stuff on my kitchen table and then have my kids with me. It's crazy, but that's how I want it. And my husband can go to the office. Obviously, he's home now because of the pandemic, but he works from home and everything, or goes to the office. But I want to have my kids with me all the time, because that's always been my priority. So thank you for that, Dr. Wright-Knothe, just giving us the little bit of heads up and validation, or in a way permission to allow us to create our lives. And talk us through about, you've got 3 kids, obviously they're older now, aren't they?
yes.
Yes, okay. So like when you were younger, kind of like thinking that, right, have you thought about, is it work or a child? Have you come across that space? Like, for example, your kids need you at home, or they're not feeling well, and then you've got a meeting, a big meeting. Like, have you come across that point? Like, how do you even make the decision?
Well, it wasn't just on me. My husband had those children too.
Yes.
And so if that happened, whenever that happened, that would look at each of our schedules and who was going to be the one to stay home with them.
Mm.
So yeah, it wasn't just on me, and most things are not that important.
Yeah.
Stuff happens, and and you eat healthy, and well, I didn't know then what I know now about certain supplements that really reduce the chances of getting ill. So my kids didn't get ill very often at all, and so.
Mm.
And that probably was partly that my children went to an in-home daycare and there weren't that many children, and so
Right.
they weren't exposed to so many viruses and such. So it didn't happen that often. In terms of going to pediatrician appointments, I wanted to do it. So I didn't want my husband to go. I
Yes.
wanted to do it, and so I made sure I did that. It's not that common, but it was important to me. The other
Mhm.
thing that I really did that I'm grateful that I thought of is I made a point the first day and the last day of school, I was home when they got home, and we did something special. And that always did something special first and last day of school. And that was awesome. That
Oh,
I was
that's
glad I thought of
amazing. So you've got like a little, I love how you kind of like put little things, but it
that.
makes a difference. Like the first day, after the summer break, nobody wants to go to school. Let's face it, like, they all just want to stay home. And even the moms, we just want to stay home because, it's a whole new school run, picking up homework and everything. So I think that's amazing that you kind of like had that tradition to make it that the first day and the last day. Obviously, the last day, like, yes, the school is done and let's go away. Like for me, let's go to Malaysia and see Mama and I know that my parents are all there. Um, but you touched something earlier that kind of like pops up in my mind. You're saying that women like gives quite a lot.
Mhm.
I remember this book by Terry Hatcher. Do you know like the Superman girl, like Superman, Lois Clark, and
Yeah,
Clark Kent and Lois Lane? So Terry
yeah,
Hatcher was the Lois Lane for what's that guy's name? Superman.
Clark Kent.
Yeah,
Kent.
Clark Kent, but his real name. So Lois Lane was Terry Hatcher, and then
Oh,
the guy Superman. Oh my God, I see his face.
yeah.
Oh, but she wrote a book called Burnt Toast. I think I saw a show on Oprah. Was it Ellen Oprah? I think it was Oprah, and Burnt Toast. And she said that as a mom, as a woman, she would
Mhm.
always get a burnt part, like at the end part, if it's lucky. Otherwise, there's nothing. So.
Mhm.
Can you give us some tips as for us women, as a mom, so as a woman, kind of how we not get to the burnt part because we
Yeah.
actually deserve the first bite, even like when you want to eat, you deserve to sit down first and eat. So can you like give us a tips or some practical methods to just like it's okay, you can have the first bite?
Well, I think that if you give too much to your children, like they're first, that you can accidentally shape up a narcissist or someone who's too
Oh.
self-centered. That if it's always them first, that
Mm-hmm.
accidentally you could make them self-centered. So, yeah, so that you're giving the message that mom's important too. Mom's important too, not more important than the children, but that mom isn't just getting the crumbs.
Mm.
And especially our daughters, we don't want our daughters to have that role model that mom gets the crumbs.
Mm. And that is like, so you just hit me kind of like, yeah, that what kind of behavior are we setting? Because it's always about them. I remember like a friend of mine who's been married almost 20 something years and then was on the brink of separation. And she's like, 20 plus years have passed and I gave it all to the kids. And now look where I am,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So like, when we see that behavior, because it's kind of programmed in us as women to have the burnt toast or the last one, what can we
Mhm.
do to override it? To like, it's okay, you can sit down first and you can eat first, or it's okay to take some me time or go to the spa. So is there like a tip or a mindset rewiring or like a meditation that we can kind of do to instill that?
Well, I think it's setting intention.
Mm-hmm.
And think, you know, as moms, we often want to be I want we want to be good role models for our children. And so how do you want your daughters to be as adults? And how do you want your sons to view women? Are the women just somebody who takes whatever's left over and they're just supposed to give and not take care of themselves? Because my mother did too much of that, and
Mm-hmm.
I was sad about that, and I'd get angry kind of with her
Yeah.
because she was that way to a fault, and she was not that happy, and so I really wanted that for her, and I'd bug her to do things for her. But that's I don't know if she was from New Zealand. I don't know if that's the culture in New Zealand back then, that the women are the caretakers and the givers, and yeah, and it's up to somebody else to do something for them. But yeah, so I had that as a negative role model in that way, although she was an awesome role model in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's why I came to that, because narcissism is not a positive quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do not want our
Exactly.
children to be narcissistic.
Yes, the self-centered, because I feel that I can see sometimes with a lot of children, even sometimes with my own kids, like the self-entitlement.
Yeah.
That, you know, the self-entitlement that me first is me.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. Like what you said just makes sense. You know, at times I could contribute to that, you know, whether consciously or unconsciously, like contribute to that kind of behavior. It's always, oh, I gotta put everything else away. I
Mhm.
gotta take care of my kids. And then lo and behold, it's like 20 plus years, isn't it? So
Yeah.
that is like kind of like important for any woman to realize. And I love what you said about the intention, the same with how you planned your life with
Yeah.
your husband, the same with how you want to be as the best mom or as the best professional in your case. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that, your career then. Like, how do you kind of like excel at your career and also take care of your kids, because a lot of the time it's either or, right? You can be super successful but then
Mhm.
have a really crappy marriage and home life, or it's either or. So
Mhm.
how did you kind of create that space again?
Well, I think that it's important to, so there's in terms of personality, so there's givers, takers, and matchers.
Oh,
So givers tend to give more than they tend to give and serve other people. Takers take, and matchers keep score. And the good news is the givers do the best as long as they're not giving to a fault. They're not, and they got to watch out for the takers, because the
yeah,
takers will hone in on a giver and go for
keep
it.
them dry.
so
Yeah.
so it's awesome to be a giver, but that you've gotta to not do it to a fault. And there's an awesome book by Dr. Adam Grant, who's an organizational psychologist, called Give and Take, that I'd highly recommend reading if someone has that issue. And the other thing is that to work very smart, because we can waste a lot of time, and there's fractured work and there's deep work. And so that your productivity is really good, because you can be super busy but you're not getting the important things done, or you're agreeing to do things that you don't need to agree to do. And because especially women, I think they have a tendency to say yes too much to things, and but men can do that too. And so deep work by Dr. Cal Newport is one, and he has another book called A World Without Email. because people can spend way too much time on email. And so his books are awesome for productivity. And
Mm.
so there's another one, Oliver Burkeman. It's time management for mortals. And
That's so
realizing
cool.
there's only 24 hours in a day. You can't make any more, and you got to get 7 or 8 hours of sleep. You can't cut yourself on sleep, and so that you get really good on your productivity. And it's not just getting more stuff done, and it also, in terms of your personal life, that if you have the financial means to hire a housekeeper, then you hire a housekeeper. Or if you're doing something that's just not a good use of your time, that you can hire somebody or whatever, ask somebody to do it, that you make sure that you do that. So productivity, I think, is huge. And with the caveat, it's not just getting more and more and more stuff done. It's being time efficient and knowing how to do deep work and how to do things like minimize email and hiring help, delegating, all that. And then, because people probably work far more than they really need to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing with email is a killer, isn't it? All of a sudden, you can spend over an hour just responding to people. I remember in the book, Arena Huffington's How to Thrive, and then inside that story, Ashton Kutcher, who's one of an actor, who's also like investor. He said that, like, he discovered that emails are a way of people telling him what to do. So he kind of stopped doing it, like first thing in the morning. Like what he does, he did what he needs to do and tell people what needs to be done. Then he would look at that, because literally email just, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this, this, and this. I'm like, that is like, I love that book, the Mere Mortals, no emails for the Mere Mortals, which is like like a cool hack. Imagine no emails for the whole week or something. I'm pretty sure that we get a lot of things done really well. So Dr. Michael, but just you and husband are a team.
Yes.
What about those couples who one or the other chooses not to participate? So what's the tip that we can create, like, hey, look, you got to help me out because, I'm burnt out, or it doesn't work, I need to have this. So what's the tip in a sense of to creating that teamwork or creating that communication channel to one another?
Yeah, that's a big one. So can you help me out? Sounds like it's the woman's job to do the stuff. And it's not. This is not the olden days. and so if you have a partner who's not stepping up to the plate, that you need to have some crucial conversations about that. And one of the biggest things about those conversations, you need to plan them. That if you do them off the cuff, they don't go well. So you've got to plan them carefully, and you've got to, if you don't already have the skills, to know how to do it right, because you don't want an argument. You don't want an argument. You want to have a conversation, and sometimes it escalates to a confrontation, but not a fight. A confrontation doesn't have to be an argument. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a fight. It's just upping the ante in the strength of the conversation, really. And so if someone doesn't really have those skills, they need to read some books or get some coaching to learn to acquire those skills. So because that's something I wish I would have known earlier in my life, is how to have those conversations more skillfully and knowing how to plan them. And so, yeah, so if you have a partner who chooses not to be part of the team, that's a big problem. And you don't just suck it up and deal. You don't just suck it up and deal.
Yes, all the pain and suffering. Yeah.
No, you have conversations and you figure it out, and you might have couples there counseling or something. Occasionally you can marry the wrong person. That's a personal choice. about what you do about that. But sometimes
Absolutely.
people, they knew from the beginning they were marrying the wrong person, and they keep in there. But that's also a value-driven thing. I mean, some people certainly believe that when you get married, that's it. It's a commitment for life, no matter what. So if that's the case, then you keep working on fixing it, but not fighting, not arguing, not being bossy, not complaining, not that. Yeah, that's what I think.
Absolutely. And then that is key, you didn't just like go and like, babe, da 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 da. But
No,
I really love what you said that you got to plan this thing, you got to know the skill set
yeah,
to have that kind of conversation. Obviously, it's not going to be when in a rush everybody goes and go out the door, isn't it? Like that's like a highly stressful time in the morning. Like I said, plan it. Includes the time, includes the space. Maybe
yeah,
someone look after the kids, and what you gonna say, and maybe set the space. Look, I just want to figure this out together. Just a particular space and conversation, which is like amazing. I love it. And thank you for that, Dr. Wright-Knothe. So as we're wrapping up, what's one big advice that you can give any woman, like based on your practice as a psychologist for the last over 30 years and now being a high performance coach? So what's like big advice or big tip that women can take today and kind of like, oh, this is something cool?
I think just being very intentional with your life, because we all have choices, and
Mm.
not every woman needs to have children, and how many children you want to have, and be very careful about who you marry. I think is
Mhm.
a good
Yes.
important thing, and just be intentional, and learn how to have those crucial conversations. Make sure you take care of yourself, that you're not giving to a fault. That's not
Mm.
good. And I doubt that many people who are on the self-centered side listen to this sort of thing. Not that's many of your listeners at all. But that's especially for women, is making sure that you got to take care of yourself too. You
Mhm.
got to get enough sleep. You've got to exercise. You got to make the time to eat right. You got to make the time to have a good morning routine and to diffuse before you go to bed, and that your partner is a equal partner. They're not helping you. They're not helping you. They're an equal partner.
Absolutely. And that's like a really good advice, a sound to that based on your experience and based, it's just so practical, isn't it? Like to look at for all of this. So one last thing, Dr. Wright-Knothe, what is one fun thing that people don't know about you?
That people don't know about me.
Yes.
I don't well, I'm a bit of a dog nut. My children are all grown, and I had three, and I have three dogs now.
Three
So,
seems your magic number, three kids, and then now like
yeah,
three dogs.
four seemed like too many. Two didn't seem like enough.
I've got three kids too, so I'm like, okay, like that's three, and that's it. Do you know what? Like when you go to book hotel rooms now, like when you go to four kids, you have to book two rooms, right? Unless you get a family room. So three, you can squeeze that one in that
Yeah,
same room still, which is
yeah.
like really cool because I've got younger kids. So thank you so much, Dr. Wright-Knothe. What a wonderful, wonderful eye-opening conversation today. And thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So thank you, darlings, for listening. This is your host, Dr. Izdihar Jamil. Until the next episode, tell yourself, yes, I can. And so it is done. So Dr. Wright-Knothe, say bye. Bye, 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 bye.
Bye.